a subtle and hidden battle between the Semitic Sephardic and European Ashkenazi Jews has been raging for centuries. It plays a vital role in the eschatology of modern Judaism, which has never before been clearly explained to the public. This war, which is taking place right now behind the scenes, affects every living person on the planet. Pay careful attention to what I'm about to say, and you will learn carefully guarded, esoteric secrets heretofore known only to a very few select Kabbalists. The sages of Judaism have always viewed the fabricated history of the Jewish people as a coded model that repeats itself over and over again because it is supposedly based on the fundamental laws of the universe, which, according to this ancient belief system, was created solely for the benefit of the Jews. Darkness always precedes light. The firstborn necessarily come before the secondborn. The time of Esau's global empire must occur before the messianic age of the world to come. 4 Gentile empires have to reign first, then the 5th Jewish empire will overtake them. Esau reigns first, then Jacob takes Esau's birthright and blessings and rules the world to come from Jerusalem. In each instance, the darkness precedes the light. Satanic chaos comes before divine order. A prescribed amount of time is ordained for the universal transformation of darkness into light through rectification. The ticking cosmic clock is set to the 6 days, 6,000 years of creation. In that precise span of time, the exile, followed by punishment, redemption, the twin messiahs, apocalypse, and the restoration, are planned to occur. Should the order of events or the schedule be broken, calamity will inevitably ensue. That is presumed to be a fundamental law of the universe. The first paragraph of the Torah tells this cosmic tale of light overtaking darkness. The formlessness, emptiness, and darkness of the primordial waters of chaos is the necessary first vessel, the first stage in the universal cycle of creation. Only after chaos exists as a substratum does God then release the order of light, which is separated from the chaotic darkness. So too were the Jewish people commanded to remain separate from the Gentiles who preceded them. The Gentiles represent the side of the evil inclination of darkness, of Esau, the firstborn. Jews are the second-born holy light, but to complicate matters further, there are now 2 kinds of Jews, the converts and the holy seed, the converted Israelites and the genuine Judahites. The Sephardim, though themselves likely converted Berbers, have always been viewed as the authentic descendants of the ancient Judeans and the natural royalty of the Jewish people. They claim to be the original kingdom of David, the southern tribe of Judah, the real Jews, as opposed to the 10 tribes of northern Israelites symbolically represented by the converts, the Ashkenazi European Jews. The European Ashkenazim have always been considered to be converts to Judaism. They are symbolically, and for the purposes of the cosmological model of Judaism, which recurs until it is fulfilled, Joseph and his son Ephraim, the side of Esau, among the twin strains of the Jewish people. Ashkenazi Jews today represent the 10 northern tribes of the kingdom of Samaria, the Israelites of Israel, because they derive from the Edom of Europe, mingled with the northern Europeans, and bear the assimilated traits of Esau, having embraced the civilization, science, knowledge, art, rationality, and materialism of Europe, of Edom, of Cain, and of Satan. In the minds of Sephardics and top Kabbalists, Ashkenazi Marxist dialectical materialism is the epitome of their atheistical tendency as Roman Edomites to pursue science and reason, reject faith and spirituality, and make themselves, rather than the Lord, sovereign rulers over the world. Ashkenazi Zionism is an expression of their rejection of God's plan for the Jewish people in favor of their own. The Sephardics believed that the European Ashkenazis were punished through the Holocaust for their irreligious European Marxism of reason without faith and Zionist imposture of the Messiah. They paid the price for the twin sins of Zionism and Marxism and will again be sacrificed due to their continued rejection of God. But in the minds of the Kabbalists, this has to occur because the darkness has to precede the light, and the body has to act without hesitation in the material world so that the spirit can then understand the meaning of the light. Matter must first be molded so that soul has a vessel in which to reside. Ashkenazi Jews signify Joseph, the tribe of Ephraim, Joseph's son, and produce the Messiah, son of Joseph, the Messiah anointed for war, who guides the European peoples to their final end in self-destructive and never-ending wars against each other and against the East, especially against Ishmael. The Ashkenazi Jews rule the European Gentiles, Esau, the Edom of the West, and it is their job to lead the European peoples into disaster. But it is Ishmael the East, historically the Arabs, Muslims, and Marxists, who is slated to finish off the Europeans in the final war of the apocalypse. The Sephardic Messiah, son of David, rules the Ishmaelites. The Sephardics are the spiritual people of the Holy Light and dwell among the Ishmaelites. The Ishmaelites are Noahides who do not influence the Sephardim to become like Esau. The Sephardic Jews produce the true Messiah, son of David, who will rule the world after the true Messiah, son of Joseph, is slain battling the forces of the East together with Edom. The Ishmaelites are covertly led by the Messiah, son of David, whose tribe, Judah, has lived among the Ishmaelites from Spain to Iran for centuries. After the West and Messiah, son of Joseph, die out, the Sephardic king Messiah, son of David, will then unite the converts of the 10 Israelite tribes of Ashkenaz with the Sephardic Judahites, or so the leaders of the Ashkenazis are led to believe by the Sephardic leaders. This eventual embrace symbolically represents the reconciliation and reunion of the warring twin Jewish brothers Esau and Jacob, which is foretold in Genesis chapters 32 and 33 and Deuteronomy chapter 23, verses 7 and 8. Messiah, son of Joseph, brings down the Europeans at the hands of the hordes from the east and dies in the process. His soul migrates to Messiah, son of David, who then finishes off the Ishmaelites over whom he lords. That is the proposed plan. Just as the souls of the Messiahs then unite in one vessel, King Messiah, son of David, the Israelite Ashkenazi and Judahite Sephardic tribes will unite during the reign of King Messiah, son of David, in the Messianic age, just as they were once unified under Saul, David, and Solomon. The dry bones prophecy of Ezekiel, chapter 37, verses 15 to 38, serves as the script for this staged set of planned events during which the Sephardim will reconcile with the Ashkenazim and the two Messiahs will become one Messiah ruling a united kingdom in the world to come. One nation under one king. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, take a stick of wood and write on it, belonging to Judah and the Israelites associated with him. Then take another stick of wood and write on it, belonging to Joseph, that is to Ephraim, and all the Israelites associated with him. Join them together into one stick, so that they will become one in your hand. When your people ask you, won't you tell us what you mean by this? Say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I am going to take the stick of Joseph, which is in Ephraim's hand, and of the Israelite tribes associated with him, and join it to Judah's stick. I will make them into a single stick of wood, and they will become one in my hand. Hold before their eyes the sticks you have written on, and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I will take the Israelites out of the nations where they have gone. I will gather them from all around and bring them back into their own land. I will make them one nation in the land on the mountains of Israel. There will be one king over all of them, and they will never again be two nations or be divided into two kingdoms. They will no longer defile themselves with their idols and vile images or with any of their offenses, for I will save them from all their sinful backsliding, and I will cleanse them. They will be my people, and I will be their God. My servant David will be king over them, and they will all have one shepherd. They will follow my laws and be careful to keep my decrees. They will live in the land I gave to my servant Jacob, the land where your ancestors lived. They and their children and their children's children will live there forever, and David, my servant, will be their prince forever. I will make a covenant of peace with them. It will be an everlasting covenant. I will establish them and increase their numbers, and I will put my sanctuary among them forever. My dwelling place will be with them. I will be their God, and they will be my people. Then the nations will know that I, the Lord, make Israel holy, when my sanctuary is among them forever. In his 19th century commentary on these passages in Ezekiel, the Malbim explained that the stick of Joseph represents the 10 northern tribes of Israel, and the Messiah, son of Joseph, is an Ephraimite of the lost kingdom of Samaria. The stick of Judah signifies Judah and all those who joined with him, primarily the tribe of Benjamin and sons of Levi. Malbim recalled the beliefs of the sages of blessed memory, who prophesied that the Ephraimite Messiah, son of Joseph, will reign over the 10 tribes of Israel and wage wars. All of Israel, the 10 northern tribes, will join with the Messiah, son of Joseph. Only after these events unfold will a Judean descendant of King David then arise to reign over Judah, his native kingdom, and also rule the 10 Israelite tribes, who were formerly led by Messiah, son of Joseph, who was born of them, but perishes waging the wars of Edom against Persia and Ishmael. A prophet and series of miracles will bring about a transformation whereby the stick of Joseph will unite with the stick of Judah, and Messiah, son of David, will rule a united kingdom as one stick, just as Saul, David, and Solomon had done. The Malbim's depiction of the stick of Joseph signifying the 10 northern tribes and the Messiah, son of Joseph, has come to be interpreted to mean that the Ashkenazis are the Israelite, as opposed to Judahite, 10 northern tribes, and the stick of Joseph, and further that Messiah, son of Joseph, is their leader and is himself a European Ashkenazi Edomite convert. The stick of Judah is now taken to represent the Sephardics and their king Messiah, son of David. Though the Ashkenazis lived in the Roman exile among the European peoples and exert their influence there, the Sephardics dwelled together with the Ishmaelites and covertly rule over them. Ashkenazi Messiah, son of Joseph, is the Messiah anointed for war, and is the blood-soaked darkness that precedes the holy light of the Sephardic king Messiah, son of David, and the rise of the Sephardics over the Ashkenazis and the rest of humanity. The Babylonian Talmud in Tractate Sanhedrin, folio 92b, tells a story of Ephraimite men who took on Canaanite wives. This is a repetition of the tale of the giants found in Genesis chapter 6, where the sons of the gods, meaning here the Ephraimite men, were handsome and tall and seduced the daughters of Cain, in this context the most beautiful women among the Canaanites. These mixed marriages created a hybrid race, whose sons, who were all tall, strong, able, and natural leaders. They were giants among men. The story of these giants is today understood to signify the mixed race of Ashkenazi converts, who are said to be a crossbred people who descend from Israelite males and Italian women, Italian as in Roman Edomites. The mixture of the Israelite males descended from Joseph through his son Ephraim, representing the so-called sons of the gods. Together with the daughters of Cain, the most beautiful women descended from the Roman Edomites who married them, produced the current Ashkenazi rulers of the nation of Israel, who governed both the Ashkenazi Israelites and Sephardic Jews, as the requisite darkness and chaos which must of necessity come before the ascending holy light of the Sephardic king Messiah, son of David. It is their place as the Edomites to first rule with the power, justice, and merciless punishment of the evil inclination as the darkness of primordial chaos, after which time they will be annihilated and give way to the divine light and mercy of the Sephardic king Messiah. Only their souls are meant to survive, and this will be achieved through the reincarnation of those Edomite female souls into Sephardic bodies, not back into material Ashkenazi bodies, which cannot occur if all goes according to the script, because the intention is for there to be no more Ashkenazis left when all this is done, and therefore no Ashkenazi children to bear those Edomite souls. The plan is a trap meant to exterminate the Ashkenazis in the name of healing the rift between Esau and Jacob and uniting the two messiahs into one. The new flesh for the dry bones is the soul of the Gentile females, which first mix together with the Ashkenazi males, who will release it to the Sephardics when the Ashkenazis disappear. The emergence of the crossbred Ashkenazis was a needed part of this plan, and their reward is to die out and surrender their souls, not their bodies, to the Sephardics. This, and only this, is what is meant by the combining of the two separate sticks of Joseph and Judah into one unified stick. King David, Jesus, and many of the messiahs are hybrids of this sort, having been born as descendants of the Gentile women Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, and Bathsheba, together with the Jewish and Israelite men in their lineage. Though the more ancient tradition had held that the sons of the gods were fallen angels, Rabbi Simon ben Yohai forbade that belief, and instead insisted that the sons of the gods are the men descended from Cain's brother Seth, who seduced the most beautiful daughters of Cain to produce the messiahs and the Edomite Ashkenazi Israelites, who will rule until the present world is destroyed, die out, and surrender their souls to the Sephardics. The path which led to this current understanding of Scripture is long and tortuous. Genesis chapter 15, verses 13 and 14 expresses Abraham's prophecy that the Israelites will suffer 400 years in bondage as foreigners, but that the God of Israel would then smite that oppressive nation and take its wealth for the Israelites. 1 Chronicles chapter 7, verses 20 and 21 is now understood to mean that the descendants of Ephraim unknowingly left the Egyptian captivity 30 years too soon and foolishly traveled through Philistia. Today, the Gaza Strip, where they were slaughtered by the Philistines. Today, the Palestinians, because they lacked the guidance of the Lord, who abandoned them because they had not properly understood or followed the prophecy of Abraham. 200,000 of these Ephraimites are thought to have perished because they failed to reckon the additional 30 years until Isaac's birth, in addition to the 400 years in their calculations, as appears in the figure cited in Exodus chapter 12, verse 40, and therefore the Ephraimites failed to fulfill the prophecy and suffered death. This same fate is said to await the Ashkenazi Zionists, who entered the land of Philistines, Palestine, before the full redemption and arrival of the Messiah, and who are today waging war on the Palestinian Philistines in the Philistia of the Gaza Strip, which threatens to bring upon the Israelites the full wrath of Ishmael and the Marxist Eurasianists. But this is considered to be a requirement of the plan because the mass sacrifice of the Zionist Ashkenazi Israelites is the price of the redemption of Judah. Edom serves as the scapegoat for Jacob's sins. Rashi explains this interpretation of the destruction of the Ephraimites in his commentaries on Exodus chapter 13 verse 17 and Exodus chapter 15 verse 14. The Ashkenazi Zionists, being Ephraimites, made the same mistake of prematurely leaving the Roman exile and entering the land of Philistia, Palestine, before the appointed hour of the arrival of the Messiah. The Ashkenazi Zionists entered the Holy Land en masse, believing that their Messiah Shabbatai Zevi had given them permission to do so, but instead reckoned the time wrong, like the ancient Ephraimites, and violated the precepts expressed in the Talmud, Ketubot 111a, which forbade the Jews and Israelites to take the Holy Land before the arrival of the Messiah. They did this on the advice of the Rothschilds, Moses Hess and Theodor Herzl. The Ashkenazi Zionists also violated the principle of the Zohar, Shemot Va'era 32a, which states that God has granted the Ishmaelites permission to live in the Holy Land up until the arrival of the Messiah, and that the land must remain barren for the duration of that period. The ruling Kabbalists have plans to do to the Ashkenazim what they believe happened to the ancient Ephraimites, who likewise made a premature exodus into Philistia. They plan to exterminate them and then conduct the proper exodus of Moses of the ruling Sephardics after the Palestinians are fully exterminated. This cruel plan calls for genocidal mass death and can potentially be stopped, now that I have exposed its secrets. The final stages of the plan are currently playing out. The Ashkenazi Zionists, who prematurely made their exodus to Palestine, Philistia, in 1948, are now engaged in a war with the Philistine Palestinians. The Sephardic Messiah, son of David, will attempt to bring Ishmael, the Muslims and Marxists of the East, against the West and Israel, the Ephraimites and Edomites, in imitation of the myths of the premature exodus of the Ephraimites from Egypt 30 years too soon, and their destruction by the Philistines. The Ashkenazis did not wait for the Messiah, but instead collectively acted as their own Messiah, embracing both political Zionism to claim Palestine and atheistical Marxism to conquer the entire earth. The result, according to the rabbis, was the horror of the Holocaust of the European Ashkenazis, which was part of the inevitable plan that has been engineered to mirror the oral tradition of the Exodus myth in these important respects. A worse yet Holocaust is planned, one which will consume the entire world. Though some ultra-Orthodox Jews oppose the Zionists, their act is part of the show to ensure that the world turn against the Zionists and consume them, as has always been the plan. Only after the fall of Messiah, son of Joseph, and the Zionists in the West are destroyed, as the Ephraimites were consumed, can the Sephardic Messiah, son of David, assume his holy throne, wreak havoc on Ishmael, and claim the world to come as his own. Pejorative expressions such as Khazarian Mafia, Edomite Jews, and Zionists, when used in a derogatory fashion, are often cryptic code for representing the Ashkenazis as if the Ephraimites slated for extermination. If these ancient plans are fulfilled, all humanity will suffer a miserable end. The prophecy of the doom of the Ashkenazi Ephraimites is clearly stated in the 78th Psalm, verses 9 through 72. The men of Ephraim, though armed with bows, turned back on the day of battle. They did not keep God's covenant and refused to live by his law. They forgot what he had done, the wonders he had shown them. He did miracles in the sight of their ancestors in the land of Egypt, in the region of Zoan. He divided the sea and led them through. He made the water stand up like a wall. He guided them with the cloud by day and with light from the fire all night. He split the rocks in the wilderness and gave them water as abundant as the seas. He brought streams out of a rocky crag and made water flow down like rivers. But they continued to sin against him, rebelling in the wilderness against the Most High. They willfully put God to the test by demanding the food they craved. They spoke against God. They said, "Can God really spread a table in the wilderness?" True, he struck the rock, and water gushed out, streams flowed abundantly, but can he also give us bread? Can he supply meat for his people? When the Lord heard them, he was furious. His fire broke out against Jacob, and his wrath rose against Israel, for they did not believe in God or trust in his deliverance. Yet he gave a command to the skies above and opened the doors of the heavens. He rained down manna for the people to eat. He gave them the grain of heaven. Human beings ate the bread of angels. He sent them all the food they could eat. He let loose the east wind from the heavens, and by his power made the south wind blow. He rained meat down on them like dust, birds like sand on the seashore. He made them come down inside their camp, all around their tents. They ate till they were gorged. He had given them what they craved. But before they turned from what they craved, even while the food was still in their mouths, God's anger rose against them. He put to death the sturdiest among them, cutting down the young men of Israel. In spite of all this, they kept on sinning. In spite of his wonders, they did not believe. So he ended their days in futility and their years in terror. Whenever God slew them, they would seek him. They eagerly turned to him again. They remembered that God was their rock, that God Most High was their Redeemer. But then they would flatter him with their mouths, lying to him with their tongues. Their hearts were not loyal to him, they were not faithful to his covenant. Yet he was merciful. He forgave their iniquities and did not destroy them. Time after time he restrained his anger and did not stir up his full wrath. He remembered that they were but flesh, a passing breeze that does not return. How often they rebelled against him in the wilderness and grieved him in the wasteland. Again and again they put God to the test. They vexed the Holy One of Israel. They did not remember his power, the day he redeemed them from the oppressor, the day he displayed his signs in Egypt, his wonders in the region of Zoan. He turned their river into blood. They could not drink from their streams. He sent swarms of flies that devoured them and frogs that devastated them. He gave their crops to the grasshopper, their produce to the locust. He destroyed their vines with hail and their sycamore figs with sleet. He gave over their cattle to the hail, their livestock to bolts of lightning. He unleashed against them his hot anger, his wrath, indignation, and hostility, a band of destroying angels. He prepared a path for his anger. He did not spare them from death, but gave them over to the plague. He struck down all the firstborn of Egypt, the first fruits of manhood in the tents of Ham. But he brought his people out like a flock. He led them like sheep through the wilderness. He guided them safely so they were unafraid, but the sea engulfed their enemies. And so he brought them to the border of his holy land, to the hill country his right hand had taken. He drove out nations before them and allotted their lands to them as an inheritance. He settled the tribes of Israel in their homes. But they put God to the test and rebelled against the Most High. They did not keep his statutes. Like their ancestors, they were disloyal and faithless, as unreliable as a faulty bow. They angered him with their high places. They aroused his jealousy with their idols. When God heard them, he was furious. He rejected Israel completely. He abandoned the tabernacle of Shiloh, the tent he had set up among humans. He sent the ark of his might into captivity, his splendor into the hands of the enemy. He gave his people over to the sword. He was furious with his inheritance. Fire consumed their young men, and their young women had no wedding songs. Their priests were put to the sword, and their widows could not weep. Then the Lord awoke, as from sleep, as a warrior wakes from the stupor of wine. He beat back his enemies. He put them to everlasting shame. Then he rejected the tents of Joseph. He did not choose the tribe of Ephraim, but he chose the tribe of Judah, Mount Zion, which he loved. He built his sanctuary like the heights, like the earth that he established forever. He chose David his servant and took him from the sheep pens. From tending the sheep, he brought him to be the shepherd of his people, Jacob, of Israel his inheritance. And David shepherded them with integrity of heart. With skillful hands he led them. This plan is an existential threat to all of humanity, yet humanity is doing nothing but obliging it. Ezekiel's two sticks are the two trees of the Garden of Eden. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, representing the kelipotic tree of death, Satan, chaos, Joseph, the 10 northern tribes of Israel, the Ashkenazis and Gentiles, and the Messiah son of Joseph, the Messiah anointed for war, and the tree of life, the Sephardi, signifying Jacob, Judah, the Sephardics, and the King Messiah son of David. The temple is the body, the vessel, for the soul of Shekinah, and when the two trees become one, when the chosen capture the soul of the tree of knowledge through their intermarriage with Gentile women, and that soul then passes from the Ashkenazis to the Sephardics, after the passing of the Ashkenazis and Messiah son of Joseph in war, the cycle will be complete, and the Shekinah soul will reside in the temple, in the vessel of the bodies of the would-be Judahites, the Sephardics, and in their King Messiah son of David. Their leaders wish to eat the fruit of the tree of life by consuming the lives of all the Gentiles and Ashkenazis, which genocide the Kabbalists euphemistically describe as the rectification of the Gentiles and Ashkenazis.